Welcome to episode 136 of the Grip Strip podcast, the What a Clusterfuck edition of the Grip Strip podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my very happy co-host, Josh Fine, avoiding the impending hurricane. He's in a different part of the state of Florida, so hopefully all will be safe for you there, Josh. But one thing that's for sure that is definitely safe is your Jacksonville Jaguars in the safe hands of Trevor Lawrence and his amazing quaff, and Doug Peterson going to Los Angeles and beating the LA Chargers of Anaheim, Alameda, and all other residing counties. I think you had more fans there than the Chargers had. You injured a couple of people. It was definitely a beatdown of epic proportions, and in what was pretty grim day in other areas of sport and in motorsport, you had the one positive thing for sure with your Jaguars coming through with another victory and taking over the lead in the division. First time, I think, since 17.
Yeah, of course. 2018, I guess, we had that 3-1 start before everything went down the drain there. But this turning out to be a great start to the year, 2-1. Jaguars going in and obliterating the LA Chargers, the San Diego Chargers, the Chargers, whatever you want to call them. This is a great time right now. We've had a lot of struggle the last 3.5 seasons, and now finally got some winning football here. And this is the biggest road victory since 2001, and then this is also the first since 2000 when they I guess 2 games in a row where they won by over 20 points. So yeah, just a great time to be a Jaguars fan right now. And yeah, another thing, the hurricane. Well, we're having the hurricane coming to Florida, impacting Florida this this week at some point. Probably going to get, at least where I'm at, going to get a little bit of rain, and probably a lot of rain, but a little bit of wind here and there. Same thing in Jacksonville, more than likely. Maybe a little bit more wind over there, but had the hurricane come through, we shut out the Colts and we beat them in Jacksonville. Which both happened in 2017, and also we beat the Chargers in 2017 also. And guess what? We went to the AFC Championship game, and it's 2017 again. So that's what it's looking like here. Except this time, we got the quarterback to finish the job. We got the coach to finish the job, and it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this year plays out. But it's an exciting time. But on the other end of it, the racing side, of course, what a clusterfuck. Charlie Foxtrot, for military people out there. This Texas race in the Cup Series especially, it was a complete mess, and it's got a lot of people questioning the leadership, officiating everything. So it's probably one of the worst races that we've seen in a long time. Probably since 2008 Brickyard. Playoff context wise, probably as far as cautions go, probably on a oval track, probably one of the worst ones since 2005 Fall Charlotte race. That one had 20 cautions or something in the same.
Wasn't that the levigating? Wasn't that after they levigated the track?
Smoke spun out leading, I think.
If I remember. And he was leading the points too.
And he was leading the points, and then he limped out of there with the 25th. But that was this race kind of reminded me of that race there. But yeah, this race was really bad. But yeah, it's you got two men's happy end within the racing side. But hey, I'm not going to let the racing side affect the mood or anything like that. Let continue riding the high of the Jacksonville Jaguars' incredible start to 2022 here.
And Josh will be able to talk more about that here as we go on in the football segment, and then also we'll get into what was one of the stupidest races I think I've ever seen in my life. I was in and out of that deal. We're gonna go and dive into it for sure. Texas Motor Speedway came through yet again, proving once again they're the worst racetrack, worst permanent racetrack in this country. It was absolutely terrible, this race, this whole weekend. Both races were horrible. Tyler Reddick ends up getting a victory. He gets knocked out last week out of the playoffs after a rough first round and getting announced that he's going to lose his ride, essentially being a lame duck, full-on lame duck situation at RCR. He basically goes and flips off Richard Childress and wins the next week. Also getting back the victory that he should have had at Texas in his rookie year, that Austin Dillon stole from him. Noah Gragson goes and wins a fourth in a row. Essentially, the way things are going, he's a favorite now to win this championship. He has so many points, playoff points, and now he's locked himself in. Next 2 weeks are free rolling for him, preparing to get to Vegas, home race, and try to go and lock himself into the Final Four. He doesn't have to worry about road courses. He doesn't have to worry about Talladega, though he can run all right on super speedway. So it's a good time for Noah Gragson and his great fan base after a fourth consecutive victory. Go back here. Got so many pages going on here. Yeah. Jimmie Johnson announced his full-time retirement from motorsport today, and we'll kind of see or talk about what he may do. There's different speculation. There's more things that might be a little more obvious than others that he would do. I think Le Mans is definitely on the cards for him, and Jeffy and Mike Rockenfeller in the Garage 56 car. But and I also, I guess, when it comes to taking a next gen car, I guess we're going to see what happens when you put one of the greatest minds that's ever crew chiefed a car in Chad Knaus running the build for this car, how they remake it and how they lighten it and do all these other things to go and make it a safer car and a faster car. And then maybe they'll use that as a blueprint for improvements, but that's really wishing, I guess, to use one of the greatest minds in history of the sport to fix a really effed up car with shitty parts and shitty tires. The Grip Strip podcast roundup, the GSP roundup, we'll get into Motegi, MotoGP, Moto2. This past weekend, Jack Miller won going away. Pecco Bagnaia crashes on the final lap, loses out on a few points. Then Moto2, couple Americans scored points there. One of them will be coming back to the United States to race, so something to look at there. NHRA saw two guys that won at the U.S. Nationals, two really close friends in Antron Brown and Ron Capps, two of my favorite drivers, win yet again. So they're gaining momentum. Aaron Stanfield also won in Pro Stock World Superbikes at Barcelona. Saw Alvaro Bautista on the Ducati take all three races and give himself a really good shot to win an elusive World Superbike Championship. Because I don't think he's ever won one, but whatever. I'll look it up later. Extreme E Copper Xprix was won by the X44 team, also known as Lewis Hamilton's team. They benefited in part from Rosberg's team, which has dominated this category since it's come along, not being able to make the final. The Ganassi team with Sexy Sarah Price was able to get back in to the final after getting eliminated in the heats. So they were able to race, but they didn't get as good of a finish as they wanted, but they're still somewhat alive in the points with one round to go in their championship. We'll talk about Petite Lamont. It's the last race of the 2022 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. There are multiple championship implications there, including in the DPI category. So we'll get into that, talk about who's in for that race. Rally New Zealand is this coming weekend, so we'll talk about that. Cali Rovanpera getting closer to a first World Rally Championship. We will also see Sebastian Ogier, I think, this weekend at Rally New Zealand. W Series comes back for the first time in a while. They'll be racing at Singapore. We'll get into football, as you said, Josh, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll get to dig deeper into that. I'll go off on Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan, and just how how bad it is to be a 49er fan on a week-to-week basis, and probably why I'm getting fat and my liver's getting worse after one of the most pathetic games I've ever seen in my life that they should have never lost, but oh well. We'll get into fantasy as well. Made a trade earlier today, so we'll talk about that. We'll also get into what we're looking at for next week with our specific matchups. The Niners will be playing next week during the show, if we do it on Monday, because they'll be on Monday Night Football hosting the LA Rams, the defending Super Bowl champions, at Santa Clara at Levi Stadium. Then we'll get into previewing Grand Prix of Singapore for Formula One. Max Verstappen getting closer to that first legitimate world championship. But what will we see behind him? Or maybe he'll be behind somebody. Maybe you can get really bold and hope for a miracle. NASCAR Cup and Xfinity will be at Talladega, and that we'll preview that. We'll make picks. And Talladega Super Speedway means the Tate Fogelman algorithm comes back out of hibernation. Josh is ready to go for that. He's been working on it. It's been hidden. We've been able to wake up Tate Fogelman's the Tate Fogelman algorithm, and we'll have that ready for you later on in this episode before Josh's sim segment and show close. Let's start with the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 500. The name of the race is As Long as the Race Was. It was I think it was probably the longest race since a 600 that we've had in many, many years. 4 hours, 21 minutes. I don't know if that includes the time that they had down because of the lightning and the rain, but Tyler Reddick takes the victory after getting knocked out of the playoffs, led the last, 23 laps of the race, and basically from lap 281 to the end, he led all but one lap. So Tyler Reddick showing that, he didn't have pace in the stages. He wasn't up front early. He did have pace in qualifying, but Tyler Reddick, in a lame duck situation, wins his first oval race in the Cup Series and beats Joey Logano, who's still in the playoffs. Justin Haley started 31st and finished third. Ryan Blaney fourth. He had his crew chief Jonathan Hassler and company there, but after not making it and getting that victory, they're all going to take 4 weeks off because of the loose tire from last weekend's race at Bristol. Chase Briscoe from 30th to 5th with quite possibly the worst car that was in the racetrack for a competitive team. The car was absolute dog crap. I think my Kia Optima was faster than his car. But he finished 5th, so I have to look it up, but I believe that's his first top 5 since the 600. I kind of feel like that's his first top 5 since the 600, but I'll check it in a minute. Eric Jones 6th, William Byron 7th. He had a good car, led 5 times for 42 laps. Logano led 6 times for 15 laps. There were a lot of leaders. There was 36 lead changes amongst 19 drivers. That sounds amazing, but it wasn't as amazing as you'd think. I mean, you had 25 cars on the lead lap. And I mean, only of the cars, there's only 7 cars that fell out of the race, which is insane to me. Was it Byron Keselowski qualifies on pole? Kyle Larson won the stage. Blaney won stage 2. Larson won stage 1. Denny Hamlin finished second in stage 1. Had issues with William Byron. William Byron can be added to the list of all the people that Denny Hamlin owes one and never will. McDowell finished 11th, was leading when it was raining. They didn't call the race, of course, so he didn't get it, but he finished 11th. Decent car. The Trackhouse team had a good day. 12th and 13th solidified themselves points-wise. Corey LaJoie getting a top 15 finish. Austin Cindric finishes 15th yet again. He actually got stage points. He didn't get any stage points in round 1. They emphasized that whole deal. Bubba Wallace had issues with his car all day. finished last car in the lead lap in 25th. Alex Bowman hit the wall, but was still running, finished 29th. Chase Elliott had hit the wall with tire issues, I think, while leading, finished 32nd, and Christopher Bell had multiple issues with his Toyota and finished 34th. Kyle Busch was running 4th in the race and crashed and finished dead last. There was 16 cautions for 91 laps. There were numerous tire issues in this race. Yet again, you have the whole thing with Greg Stucker sitting there saying, "Oh, there's no excuses." He said it. They had a media thing, and he said there was no excuses, and then literally went off for another minute, making about 20 different excuses that none of them involved Goodyear and the tire that they bring to the racetrack. There was Kyle Larson quoted earlier in the weekend, saying they asked him, what should they do with Texas Motor Speedway? He said they should just go and demolish it and start over again. And I'm like, wow, paraphrasing what he
Blunt
said.
Larson is back.
Yeah, I mean, he went hard R and all that, but that one is going back to, kind of in between. He had a little bit of that when he was driving for Ganassi. He never really showed that much, but that was the best quote of the weekend, other than, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin going off on their soapboxes about how bad this car is, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, Texas Motor Speedway is the worst track. If you've listened to this show, if you've listened to me on other entities in the podcast realm, I have pontificated many times about how much I dislike this racetrack. It's literally one of the worst racetracks on planet Earth. It's essentially in a third world. I mean, the way that state is run and the way that state does things, you could make the same end. It's like being in like Saudi. So it's kind of like the Saudi racetrack because of how shitty it is. But
that's a hot take.
but the fact is that track, they've reconfigured it. They had the banking and the transitions going backwards and goosage when they originally made it. So the transitions went the wrong way. Initially they had bad drainage issues. Then they redid it. They had like crazy angles so people hit the fence. You had the untimely passing of Tony Roper. They left that alone, or left the track alone for a while. Then I think they repaved it or something. A couple of times they had repaves, and they've had issues with the corners and stuff because it's a shithole. Then before Goosage decided to quit, he had the bright idea in SMI with their genius, since they do such a great job reconfiguring racetracks, let's go and make 2 different types of corners. So then they did that to there in Kentucky, and now Kentucky is growing weeds. And this is another place that should grow weeds or be made into a big pond so that they could have the Bassmaster Classic, or they should just go and make it a condominium complex. I don't care, whatever. It just shouldn't be a racetrack anymore. And then on top of it, then they decided, we're going to start putting grip strip on there, DJ1, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's grip strip for us because it's our show, but which has essentially ruined the IndyCar racing product they have there. They can't even run they can't run 2 grooves because of them putting the spray on the track. The NASCAR product is an abomination too. They can blame it on the next gen car. It's become the flavor of the month because the next gen car is not safe, which is obvious. Next gen car and the tires don't really work. The downforce, where they're getting the downforce from, probably is part of the reason why, and the fact that they're stuck in certain ride heights. I mean, you could read Rodney Childers. It's funny how Rodney Childers and Kevin Harvick have basically become the conscience of the sport, on their Twitter handles all of a sudden, because now they're eliminated. So they're like, fuck it. We have to follow through in Tony's, in line with Tony Stewart, and basically, somebody has to be the truth tellers in this sport with how bad it is. they talk about how little adjustments could actually help the car make it better in general, but they won't make those changes. That race was a joke. And for a playoff race to have a caution essentially every 20 laps, 15 to 25 laps, 30 laps is insane. Cody Ware had an enormous wreck, swapped ends in 3 and 4, slammed the wall head on. Well, he had that angle. I mean, the angle, like if you understand the angle that he had, that's an angle that in the past has been very serious. He then basically beelined into the pit road. It's similar to Jimmie Johnson's wreck at the 2005 Brickyard 400, except he didn't have that swap ends part. He just blew a tire, slammed the wall, rolled off the wall, and went into pit road, and the car caught on fire. Knocked him out unconscious for a second. And that's essentially where Cody Ware was, where he couldn't even get out of the race car. It was bad. And nobody, they didn't give up any real, they didn't really make any announcement on injuries or anything if he had any, but it didn't look good. Similar to a Tonga Vailoa yesterday when he was basically wobbly and couldn't walk and was having to be held up by his offensive line. He goes into the blue tent and like 2 minutes later, he's back out on the field. It was similar to Deebo Samuel going in the blue tent for like 20 seconds, but the difference is he wasn't knocked out wobbly. I think he had some sort of leg or ankle situation. So with all of that, Josh, credit to Tyler Reddick. Considering his circumstance and situation, it proves how good of a driver he is. And it's a shame that Richard Childress and his own ego and his own arrogance is going to waste a talent like that. And I think Tyler Reddick already saw the writing on the wall. And he's like, I'm never going to go anywhere here. And Denny Hamlin pursued him. Toyota pursued him. They're like, we want somebody like him in one of our race cars. You look at the way Toyota's now kind of angling themselves with the likelihood of Keebler Gibbs being in the 18 car and Christopher Bell, longtime Toyota driver. They need to have young talent, and he is a guy that they can build around. And it's a loss for Chevrolet, that's for sure. He was a loss for Ford too, because he drove for Ford prior to that with Brad Keselowski Racing. So credit to Tyler Reddick. In a clusterfuck race, he made the most out of that deal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he made the most out of it. I mean, think about it. This race is basically Russian roulette in a way. It's just whoever pulled the trigger and there's no bullet in the chamber, you survived. And then, you die when, you blow the tire. So that's what it was. It's basically whoever had the lead. It was a game of Russian roulette there. It was really sad to see the leader just popping a tire out of nowhere. And really I feel like it's more of a, combination of factors and things. You have the tire design from NASCAR that they mandated this year with the new car, where, low profile tire, no inner liner, and then you have the tires themselves from Goodyear, who's never had a good track record, since the last 20 years or whatever. And then you have the teams, not that they're wrong or anything, but they have they're trying to push the limits and stuff. And some teams went more aggressive than others, but there's a lot of factors, but I think the team's factor, I guess the setups is probably the least contributing factor to that. So, out of the three, that one has the least impact on the tires and things compared to the car design or the wheel design, and then the actual rubber compound that makes up the tires. So just, the Goodyear hasn't been able to do that. And, the NASCAR with, their design, I don't know, I guess, like, why did we have to go to low profile tires here, for this? Like, what was the thinking behind going to this type of wheel and tire? And they talked about it, with, I guess, in previous other podcasts. Junior talked about, like, why'd they go to a wider tire, why'd they go to larger contact patch and everything. And that's another factor into it. But yeah, the tire design, I guess they have more questions about it than answers right now. And yeah, there's just not a good look when half the field crashes and leaders crash after 30 laps. Like there's no guarantee whether you're going to make it or not. So just a lot of investigation that needs to go around. And then earlier today, on Monday, Justin Marks, when tweeted out, said that he said, this new car is the most radical change in the history of NASCAR. Perfecting his performance and safety is going to be a process. We cannot assume perfection right out of the gates. This comes from an owner whose parts expenses in order of magnitude more than budgeted. And that's kind of true. Yeah, there's always going to be kinks and stuff. It's not perfect. And yeah, this is the most radical design because, we've basically thrown out the stock car formula, tried and true since, 1948, although the modern NASCAR design's derivative of the 1965 Ford Galaxy from that era, and the solid rear axle and all that stuff. And now we're basically going to not only a road car, but now it's more of towards the open wheel side. You have toe links now, and I hadn't heard of a toe link in a race other than IndyCar. So and any other races like that. So road racing style car, and you're basically putting it on an oval, and when you hit the wall in an oval with you have toe links and stuff, then obviously those get broken, then you have to come to the pits and repair that. Although maybe it's survivable. I mean, some of the impacts we've seen have been somewhat survivable and everything. But then from that tweet, Justin Marks said, Chase Elliott replied, with the experience and knowledge gained since 1948 and technology we have in 2022, should never take steps backwards in any area with a new design. And yeah, I think that's correct also. There's things that can change, and maybe you go backwards in some areas, but the fundamental stuff, it's like, I don't know, I guess I think of it also like an airplane, right? You have an airplane design. There are certain things you can't just throw out the window and be like, oh yeah, we're going to go to this new technology and everything, because obviously it's not going to work, and there's going to be differences and things that with the new design for thing that we don't know actually worked or not. It's turning out that it's not been as great as what they thought it was, and so clearly there's it's almost like they didn't do enough testing on this product, NASCAR's next gen car, and before rolling it out. And I mean, it's like, yeah, they had 2 to 3 years of, I guess, development on this at the very least, and somehow we're gone through all these issues, the fires, the crash, stiffness of the chassis, and then the tire problems throughout the year. It's been an issue. It's been plagued and everything, and it's a lot of things that it looks like they've missed, and it's almost like we gotta go back to the drawing board here in the off season and come up with some kind of patch or some kind of rework and everything. And I think in the positive sense, like at least Texas withstanding the other mile and a half tracks, like I said before, seem to be better in terms of racing, but then everywhere else it's not good, and then you also have these issues. So it's almost like a net negative in a way with what the next gen car has brought to the table. So just a lot of issues that this car that shouldn't be a part, shouldn't be in the series right now, and should have been worked out way beforehand, way before this season, and everything. So we'll see what NASCAR does, but the sad state of it is that we're gonna have to deal with these issues for the rest of the regular season and everything. So yeah, this thing was just bad overall there. But I mean, that's the main topic in that whole race. Texas itself always being bad and shouldn't have repaved it or redesigned it. It was fine in 2016 the way it was and everything. I think people got used to it and stuff, and they went and threw that out the window and brought a radical redesign with 2 different turns, 2 different banked turns, and now it's clear that it's bad, clear that they missed it with Kentucky as well. So that that idea has gone out the window. So we'll see what they do with this next gen car throughout the rest of the off season, after November, and then also what do they decide to do in the future with Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good points there. I mean, but and give credit to Reddick for being able to last. It was an endurance test, and last man standing. He was the one that avoided all the pitfalls and banana peels, as Kyle Busch called the grip strip, because it wasn't activated. And I mean,
Mario Kart.
Yeah, exactly. Like Dale Jr. talked about taking his wife out and in the whatever ride along deal, and he joked that he went and hooked the corner too hard, got in the grip strip, and it wasn't activated. And Amy went from having a good time to going and giving a stiff arm almost right to Dale's head, saying she didn't want to have anything else to do with this ride anymore. So it tells you when a wife doesn't like the grip strip, when it's not activated properly, then you're pretty sure that most of these drivers aren't going to be a fan of it either, unless it's acting properly. So I really don't know what it was. It's just sad, really. I mean, it's one of the crappiest racetracks on earth. I've said it over and over again. It's a terrible track. It's a terrible situation. You're opening and round of the playoffs with this race. I mean, Chase Elliott for the second round in a row has had issues. Christopher Bell, after having the points lead going into this round, will be at a deficit. I mean, it's Bubba Wallace is now at a disadvantage. Probably needs to repeat his win at Talladega this coming weekend to have a chance in the owners' standings. I mean, there are so many things wrong this weekend. Not enough practice, not enough time on the track. It's probably something where they might have to start really looking, not just about how they have to re-engineer the car to make it safer and make it more viable and make it work in different racetracks and stuff, but they also have to look at how they run their weekends so that this car you can actually see what this car has going on and what it needs, so that it can be changed or can be fixed. I mean, as it stands right now, even with the rough day, the 45 is only, what is it? Well, he's actually 17 points out of the cutoff right now. So that's a problem for 23, the 45 car for Bubba Wallace. The driver points after this race, of course, Tyler Reddick gets his third win of the year. Likely, as of now, I mean, he has a good shot to finish fifth in points once they zero out all the points, I guess. I mean, they really should zero out all the points, put it back to where they're at the regular points number. I find that to be dumb. I said that last week, but it's still the truth. Reddick gets his third win of the year. Logano takes the points lead going into Talladega by 12 over Chastain, who won earlier this year. Byron is 12 points behind, and Byron's 13 behind. So Kyle Larson 14, Ryan Blaney 15. So 4 drivers separated by 3 points. Those guys are in a little better situation. Then you have a group, Denny Hamlin, Daniel Suarez, and William Clyde Elliott II, who are 22, 26, and 26 points behind. Elliott is the cutoff right now by 4 over Chase Briscoe, who is 9th, 30 points behind from the lead. Austin Cindric is 37 points behind and 10th. Christopher Bell and Alex Bowman have some issues. They're going to have to put together some good runs here the next 2 weeks for points to play a role. Either way, that the unfortunate incidents for both of them at Texas early in the day have put them at a deficit. And in the case of Christopher Bell, kind of shows the flaws in the system, where he had done such a great job in the first round of the playoffs and basically got thrown out. it goes back to like when they had the 10 race system, and I think it was a better system. Granted, Jimmie Johnson won 5 consecutive championships in said system, but that shows how they analyzed and what they did to make things work. Going into the Xfinity race at Texas, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot there to discuss. Noah Gragson wins his 4th consecutive race, joins Sam Ard, legendary status there for Gagson. It looks like, they had an issue there in putting in John Hunter Nemechek. He had led 60 laps. He was the 2nd highest lap leader. There was really 4 guys. It was Gagson led 85 laps, Allmendinger led 34, Nemechek led 60, and Daniel Hemrick led 12. So 4 guys led double-digit laps. They had 14 lead changes among 7 drivers, 9 cautions for 52 laps. So a total of 25 cautions for nearly 100 and near 150 laps this weekend amongst the 2 races. Noah Gragson locks himself into the round of 8. Because this is the last race of the round or second race of the round of 12. Austin Hill finishes 2nd. Ty Gibbs, is this a playoff opener? That's right, it's a playoff opener.
Yeah, it's a playoff opener here.
Yeah, so he locks himself into the round of 8. Austin Hill, Ty Gibbs, AJ Allmendinger, Riley Herbst, Josh Berry, the top 6. Sheldon Creed, the first non-playoff driver, in 7th. Sam Mayer, Ryan Sieg, and CJ McLaughlin. Christ almighty. 8 cars finished on the lead lap. Ryan Sieg, first car, 1 lap down. His teammate, CJ McLaughlin, one of the worst people ever to drive a race car. Somehow or another, he spun out early, as he always does, and somehow or another came back and finished 10th. Nick Sanchez finished 11th in the 48 Big Machine Chevy, and Bailey Curry 12th. Stephen Parsons 13th. Tommy Joe Martins 14th. Jeb Burton 15th. So it kind of tells you what the hell happened. Bruckshot Jones qualified on pole, wrecked. I mean, there were only 21 cars running at the end of the race. So essentially half the field was out. Jeffrey Earnhardt wrecked 17 laps into the race. You had other people who had like engine and other issues. Hemrick was involved. There was a couple of big wrecks after the end of stage 2. One that involved John Hunter, Justin Allgaier, Hemrick, Brennan Poole, and Mason Massey and Bruckshot Jones, Josh Williams. So, and then there was another wreck. I thought there was 2 wrecks back to back. The one that had Landon Castle in it, so he's knocked out of the playoffs. Before I get into the points, I guess you got to take your hat off to Gagson. He's put his head down, and he's actually really serious here and really wants to prove that he isn't just a spaz that's into just being a weirdo dude on social media. He actually wants to be a champion here in this sport, and Petty GMS is very happy with their signing, for sure, and their hopes for what he can do in a cup car. But before that, it looks like he's going to be able to possibly go and win an Xfinity championship.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to go out and win an Xfinity championship here, possibly. I mean, he's locked in to the next round, so he doesn't have to worry about Talladega. And Talladega is still a track that can make or break your playoffs, depending on what happens and everything. And the fact that he actually gets to free roll at Talladega is really good for him, because now we can go into Talladega and kind of race without needing to worry about being conservative at all. You can go push as far as he wants to throughout the race and try to be aggressive and be up in the lead for the most part. So we'll see what happens at Talladega, but he can go out there and take no risk and win Talladega for free, and then continue to add that point total for the next round as far as playoff points go. So Andy, he's somewhat decent, pretty good at restrictor plate tracks too. So that's another element to it, and which we'll get into later. But Gregson continuing to get wins here in the Xfinity Series. We'll see if he can go for 5 in a row, which it's been a long time. I don't know if we've ever seen driver win 5 in a row. I think 4 in a row is the most that any driver
in this series. It's 4 in a row with him and Sam.
So in this series, but I think in all of NASCAR, I don't know if we've ever seen 5 in a row by anybody. That's
a good one. I'm not sure what the longest streak. Harry Gant had the 4 in a row in the month of September.
It's been tied, but never been broken, I guess. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Noah Gragson there. Good run for Austin Hill. Riley Herbst, top 5, but he's on the bubble to make it into the playoffs. He's 1 point outside from Ryan Sieg in 8th place. So very tight there. The big one, we had the big one with Brandon Jones, Justin Allgaier, Daniel Hemrick all caught up in that accident. So tough deal for Justin Allgaier, but it shows the advantage that you can have, by having playoff points and winning races throughout the regular season. So on the other hand, Dale Hemrick's gonna have to go into Talladega and try to win the race, which maybe that'll be the game plan for Kaulig Racing to get the former reigning champion into the next round of the playoffs by hopefully getting him to win the race. So we'll see what happens, but this race maybe not as controversial as the Cup race, but it's a typical Texas race that we've seen before in the past of the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, typical boring bullshit, and it's a track that really just needs to be closed or blown up and redone again. I was just looking through the statistics. Is just going back on the Cup side. It is the first for Chase Briscoe. It's his first top 5 since the Coca-Cola 600 that he threw away. So that is pretty crazy. I mean, he had a decent first round, couple of top 15 finishes. Good qualifying run. Oh, man, he was going for it there. And watching Aaron Judge trying to get number 61. Driver points entering Talladega. Of course, Gagson has locked in to the next round, so he's got no problem. He's got a, 30s, 3, 23, 18, that 18-point lead? Yeah, 18-point lead on Ty Gibbs in regards to playoff points. So something to look at for stages and all. He's won double the amount of stages of anybody else, really. Or actually, Allgaier's the only one close. He's got 5. He's 5 behind. So the playoff point battle is amongst those 4. The 9, the 16, the 54, and the 7. Allgaier had his issues, but he's still solidly in, 53 points behind of the leader. The cutoff is pretty close. Sam Ard is tied with Ryan Sieg at 72 points back, and then Riley Herbst is a point behind that. And then you have Daniel Hemrick, who is in 10th, 8 points back. Brandon Jones is 13 back. Jeremy Clements had issues with the battery and is right back where he was at Daytona, essentially needing a miracle to make it into the next round of the playoffs. So you know what he's going to be doing. He's probably going to hold back, run in the back, try to see what the carnage is, and maybe come through. Like most of these races have become. The owner points, 9 car also is in the lead, the 16, 54, 21. All mirrors, 8, 7, 1. The 98 is 8th. The 18 car is 9th. The 11, 19, and 51 are the 12. In this playoff, another strikeout for Aaron Judge. Oh, well. So the only one that is in the owner points playoffs in the Xfinity Series that's different is the 18 Joe Gibbs car. That car is 8 points out of the cutoff position, which is held by the 98 car. So we will see what happens with that. Before we move forward into the roundup, got to talk about Jimmie Johnson announcing his full-time retirement. Of course, 84 wins, 7 championships in the Cup Series. Decided to kind of pivot in post-NASCAR retirement and run sports cars and Indy cars. he had a dream of running Indianapolis because his hero is Rick Mears, and he got to do that this year. He ran the full IndyCar calendar, ran well at Iowa Speedway. It reminded me of Jimmie Johnson of old, and I mean, Josh, you would pick him a lot as a wild card guy, and he showed his mettle on the ovals. And honestly, I think with time, maybe youth, Jimmy would have been just fine. But when you're as great as he is, and you're nearly your career is basically made, and how many risks are you really willing to take to and that's one aspect of it. But I also think just to be able to compete in that series, how tough that series is, and to be coming in new at age 46, it really asks a lot of him. But he did all right at times. He also ran the sports car, the Cadillac DPI. He'll be in it this weekend at Petite Lamont. So, I mean, it's something that he's been flirting with victories in these major sports car events, and now he's going to get to go to one of the races, bucket list races he's always wanted to go to, more than likely, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And I mean, I also think that he'll be around for at least a couple of races next year in IndyCar and NASCAR. He might be making an appearance at a Cup race or some other NASCAR event here next year, because he'll be a little bit more readily available. So we're not going to see Jimmie Johnson fully quit, but we're not going to see him as much as we have for, I guess, the last 20 years. 25 years, I guess, in the sense of his career, being that he came from off-road racing in 97 was when I think he moved over to stock cars and ASA. And from then on, he's been in the limelight, basically. And he's taking it, he's slowing down a little bit. Might be taking his family abroad as well, which might be something to see what happens with that. Might do WEC. It seems like that might be something that might be in the cards for him. LMP2 might not be such a bad idea in that sense. I guess he would be considered a platinum at the moment, but if he waits a few years, he'd be a silver. So now, if they want to emphasize a super silver, I would think Jimmie Johnson would be a super silver at that point. But one of the greatest drivers in my lifetime that I've ever seen. His dominance in NASCAR with Chad Knaus, undeniable, one of the greatest combinations in the history of the sport. Changed the game, changed the way a lot of people have to do things. Once the sport started making certain changes with the cars and other aspects, and they kind of got away from both him and Chad, we didn't see the same kind of productivity, but he's still a legend. He's still one of the greatest ever. He's still one of 3 people that's won 7 Cup championships. So, and he's widely respected across multiple formulas of racing. So that I think speaks a lot to how great Jimmie Johnson really is. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he's always been a great driver, and this retirement announcement shouldn't really come as a surprise. I mean, it's basically a second retirement because he's already retired full-time from NASCAR racing, and now he's basically retiring full-time from IndyCar racing, and not a surprise there. Thought maybe he would try to go for another full-time year, but, maybe he decided with the way he's ran on the road courses, it's a good experience and everything, and he definitely had a good challenge with it that, it's not worth doing full time, and we just focus on, if you want to still continue to compete in IndyCar but remain competitive, it's better maybe to consolidate and go to possibly an oval only schedule, and hopefully he decides to go and run the Indianapolis 500 again next year. He ran Indy earlier this year and had good speed in the month of May, I felt like, but then, of course, went and crashed towards the end and struggled with the handling all day in that race. So hopefully Jimmie Johnson goes out and decides to do the Indianapolis 500. There was talk, I guess they mentioned the possibility of doing the double, so doing the Indianapolis 500, then flying to Charlotte and doing the Coca-Cola 600. So there's that possibility and everything. And then, of course, running Le Mans again, or for the first time. So we'll see if that happens. Curious to see if he decides to go out and run in the Rolex 24 once again. Probably would be good practice for the Le Mans 24-hour. So we'll see. No reason why not to. He's still going to be backed by Ally, and Chad Knaus is going to be there. I think because I think he's part of that effort there with Action Express with Hemrick. So we'll see what happens. If he ends up running the Rolex or not, and then later on in the year, what else he decides to do. But based on his performance in IndyCar and the road courses, I think originally he probably would have just done the road courses, but then with the persuasion of others, went and did add the ovals to his schedule. So got a taste of everything in IndyCar, and now likely to see him a couple more times in ovals and everything. So great career overall. Obviously one of the greatest of all time to ever do it. So no complaints on seeing him retire like this, and not a surprise to see say he's going to retire full time from IndyCar racing. So we'll see how long he lasts competitively. He's obviously going to be jumping around and trying different things, but we'll see how long that lasts. If that I'm sure maybe only a couple of years or a year or two, and then maybe he decides to completely quit from racing and withdraw and live a life full time wherever, doing something else in Colorado, or just going around the world or something like that. So a lot of opportunity though this next year for him to go out and try different events though.
Yeah, it's something now with the Carvana, with Ally, with he has a great group of sponsors, so it's not money is definitely not an issue in regards to sponsorship with Jimmie. Also, with the amount of money he's made, honestly, I think he could fund a ride if he really had to. The Chad Knaus connection, of course, with the Garage 56, I think seems very likely. Jeff Gordon coming out of retirement, in a sense, to drive a Porsche Carrera Cup race, having Ray Evernham be his crew chief, so they're just trying to bring it all back together with Hendrick. Rockenfeller driving a Hendrick car at Watkins Glen. I think all those pieces kind of put it all, that all three of them will be racing. I assume that they would, amongst the changes they put to that car, would be a door. If anything, I don't think they want to save time in regards to driver changes. I would assume they'd put a door in that car and make some other adjustments to that. I don't know about structural integrity. I guess it might, because they do have that in the GT3 category with the doors, and also I guess they could do that. I would also hope he runs Indy and maybe Corvette. Who knows? Maybe Corvette brings extra car out there for the Rolex and lets Jimmie and Jeff and Rocky go out there and play around in like the GT AM or whatever, because Jeffy, I think, is over 50. So theoretically he could be considered a silver at that point. So that would be something to see. They could maybe call Scott Pruitt out of retirement, but he has a connection with Lexus, so can't say hi to my family at home in that sense. We'll move forward to the GSP Roundup. Go with MotoGP first. Jack Miller, as I mentioned, dominated the race for Ducati. First win in a while for him. He's moving on, of course, to be teammates with the guy that finished second, Brad Binder, on the Red Bull KTM. Jorge Martin, Pramac Ducati, finished third. Marc Marquez qualified on pole, but had a bad start. Finished fourth. Miguel Oliveira, fifth. Luca Marini, sixth. Maverick Vinales, seventh. Points leader and defending world champion Fabio Quartararo, eighth. Enea Bastianini, ninth. And Marco Bezzecchi, 10th. Johan Zarco had kind of a non-weekend of sorts, finished 11th. A couple other Yamahas actually scored points, and other Hondas scored points. It shows that people that were big guys had issues, like for Alex Rins, who crashed out of the race, and then Pecco Bagnaia, as I mentioned, crashed out on the last lap while running ahead of, or running just behind, I think, of Quartararo there. Standings going to Thailand this coming weekend for MotoGP. Bagnaia is behind by 18 points. Alicia Spargaro is 25 points behind. Enea Bastianini is 49 points behind in fourth. Jack Miller is 41, 60 points. Yeah, 60 points out in fifth. Binder's in sixth, the further 11 points back from that. So, what is it? 4 more rounds to go here in this championship. Quartararo is not out of the woods by any means. Speed's been an issue. Consistency with the bike, especially in qualifying, been an issue for Quartararo. But Bagnaia, if he doesn't win, he crashes, and that's really why he's still in the lead, because Quartararo, if he's only had 1 non-point score all year, or 2 non-point scores the whole year, versus Bagnaia, who has had 1, 2, 4, 5 non-finishes, and then 15th place, which is 1 point. When Quartararo finishes, he essentially finishes in the top 10. So that probably plays a big part in the results there and why the standings are the way they are. In Moto 2, that's Moto 2 team Mark VDS Racing at Issues of Fire. That's not good. Ain't good at all. And then in the race itself, the Ayagura gets a home victory over Augusto Fernandez, who's going to Moto GP for Gas KTM. Alonso Lopez finished third, Jake Dixon fourth, Chantra fifth, and Cameron Beaubier finished 11th, just out of Joe Roberts. I mentioned, and then Sean Dillon Kelly finished 19th. I mentioned Cameron Beaubier because after 2 years in Moto 2, he's going to come back to the Moto America Championship, and it could be on his old bike, essentially, going and replacing the outgoing champion, 2-time champion, Jake Gagne, who has taken over who took over his ride, essentially, and has been able to win 2 consecutive titles. He was able to beat former MotoGP rider and will be a rider this weekend for Suzuki, actually. Danilo Petrucci, he beat him this year for the championship, and it was a hard-fought battle between those 2 riders. So that's something. Jake Gagne might be going to World Superbikes, which would add another Yamaha to the equation, which would be good. Another American on the grid, since Garrett Gerloff will be leaving the GRT Yamaha team to ride for BMW. So there'll be 2 Americans on the grid. That would be nice. He'll also have Remy Gardner taking over the ride that Garrett Gerloff has had for the last few years at that Yamaha team. So something to see in regards to World Superbikes as we go on in MotoGP, Moto 2. In the points for Moto 2, Augusto Fernandez is up by 2 points on Ayagura, and then there's a huge gap, 57 points on Aaron Canet in third. Celestino Vietti had a really good start to the year and then has dropped off the map, essentially, after he's only had 3 point scores. I mean, he had scored in every race the first, 6 of the first 7 races he scored, and 7 of the first 9. And then basically the bottom fell out for him the same time Augusto Fernandez took off, along with Ayagura. So it's interesting. Ayagura is not going to get the call up to MotoGP, but I guess he'll be a favorite for next year in Moto 2. We'll get into the NHRA, Betway NHRA Carolina Nationals. So Antron Brown beat Justin Ashley in Top Fuel with a 367 with a 335.73 miles an hour. Also got him on the tree. Ashley had a 367 with a 1 with a slower speed, but Antron had 200s off the line, so that was a difference there. And going into the funny car class, Ron Capps defeated Alexis DeJoria, got her on the tree. Issues with the smoke in the tires there, not really having full grip. 396 with a 7,267.32 miles an hour. Beats DeJoria. Ron Capps also got John Force in the semis. DeJoria beat Matt Hagan in the second in the semis after getting a bye he had a free run in the second round and smoked the tires. Pro Stock saw Aaron Stanfield beat Matt Hartford. Great tree, 0-18 on the line, 656 with a 7,210.21 miles an hour over the slower and losing 656 with a 209.82 for Matt Hartford. It says Pro Stock Motorcycle wasn't there. Pro Mod was, though. For whatever reason, they don't have a final result. The standings heading into the next race in the calendar, trying to see what that one is. The next race will be this weekend at the Midwest Nationals at Worldwide Technology Raceway in Madison, Illinois. Good thing I checked that. Justin Ashley leads the top field points by 43 over Antron Brown, 52 over Brittany Force. Mike Celine is 54 back. Steve Torrance is 105 points behind in fifth. Right now, there's 12 cars in the playoff, but essentially, it's the battle is amongst those five right now for the top field title. In funny car, Robert Hight has a 27-point lead on Ron Capps, 60 on Matt Hagan, 74 on John Force, 104 on Bob Tasca. In pro stock, Eric Enders has a 64-point lead on Aaron Stanfield, 97 on Troy Coughlin Jr., Greg Anderson's 109 back. And they have Tracy Morgan on the Manning cast. How are they able to even keep them under control? That's something. Joey Gladstone leading the Pro Stock motorcycle points by 29 over Matt Smith, 42 over Steve Johnson. So there's 7 riders under 100 points, 8 counting Jerry Savoy are just over 100 points out. So that's something to see at St. Louis this weekend. I have to go and add that here in a little bit. That's at Louis. Yeah, so that's what we'll see. We'll talk about that next week on the GSP for them. In regards to World Superbikes, this past weekend they were at Catalunya, which saw Alvaro Bautista win all 3 races. This weekend in race 1, Alvaro Bautista won by 8.6 seconds over Johnny Ray. Garrett Gerloff getting a first podium of the year. Michael Ruben Rinaldi 4th. Toprak Raskat-Lioku finished 5th. Iker Lacuona, who qualified on pole for Honda, the Spanish rider, finished 6th. Trying to go and see over there who else. Anybody else? I am Scott Redding, Michael Vandermark right there. In the Super Pole race, Alvaro Bautista beat Ray and Lowe's, the Kawasaki teammates. Raskat-Lioku was 4th. Michael Ruben Rinaldi was 5th. Garrett Gerloff finished 10th. And then in race 2, Bautista over Ruben Rinaldi, Raskat-Lioku, Ray, Bassani, your top 5. And Garrett Gerloff crashed on lap 11 out of the race there. So unfortunate accident between Alex Lowe's and Scott Redding at the start of on the first lap. So bad deal for both of those guys. Next race for World Superbikes will be in Portugal at the Algarve. Right now it's 659 points between Bautista and Raskat-Lioku, 59, and then you add another 8, so 67 to Johnny Ray. for the battle for the world championship there. Gerloff is 11th in points, 7 out of 10th with Javi Vieje, who is in 10th. It might be a little bit harder for him to go and get back up there to the guy he's replacing, Scott Redding, not Scott Redding. I think he's replacing, I forget who he is replacing, but he is going to BMW next year in World Superbikes. So that's something to see. Baz keeps fun here. Redding, Rinaldi, KTM lands World Superbike. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is. So Remy Gardner, GRT, Yamaha, and then Gerloff is going to replace Eugene Laverty. There you go. The next piece of news is the Extreme E Copper X Prix in Chile this past weekend, which was pretty interesting. A lot of issues, controversy, penalties took place, but the short version of it is after the final, the X44 team of Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez gets the victory over the Spanish duo of Leila Sanz and Carlos Sainz, and Jutta Kleinschmidt and Nasser Al-Attiyah for the Abt Cupra team. Jutta Kleinschmidt actually was out of the car and had a sub because she had issues in practice. Sarah Price and Kyle LeDuc for Hummer EV Chip Ganassi Racing finished 4th. And then Emma Gilmore and Tanner Faust for the McLaren team rounded out the 5 that made the final. The Ganassi car made it in because the Nico Rosberg team, who was in the final, had issues and wasn't able to make it into the race. So what would have been basically an insurmountable gap is somewhat within reason. The Rosberg team has a 17-point lead on the Lewis Hamilton team, and then it's 23 for the Spanish Sands and Sainz team, and 53? So it would be 28 points to the Ganassi team, Price and LeDuc, and those are your 4 that I think are still eligible. So I'm not really sure how the points work, so it doesn't seem to clearly explain how the points work in this series. So spotlight, there you go, table, yeah, so that doesn't really do anything. I'm trying to understand how they have whatever points. Doesn't do that. What a great website. Whatever. I guess we'll find out what happens the next race there. Katie Munnins and Timmy Hansen for the Andretti United team is only a point out of 5th. So that's something to look at for the next race. Explore, history, news, sustainability, watch. Yeah, the next race is a couple months away. Yeah, so maybe by then I'll figure out how the hell they give up points. Go to the IMSA Petite Lamont this weekend, the last race of the DPI era before they move to the new GTP format, the LMDH category. So that'll be an interesting race, interesting to look at. 48 car field this weekend for Petite Lamont. In terms of the championships, GTD Pro is basically decided. Campbell, Matthew Jaminet in the number 9 FAF Porsche just have to start to win driver and teams. Otherwise, every other championship is still in play to some point. They have the Konica Minolta Acura team and the Meyer-Shank Racing Acura. 19-point lead by the 10 over the 60. The 10 team had a 19-point lead last year and still lost the championship to the Wheel and Engineering Cadillac team. Looks like did Saquon Barkley score, or is there a hold? Looks like
somebody finally got a touchdown.
Yeah, it looks like Saquon Barkley scored a touchdown. Yeah.
Oh,
wow. Damn. That was a great run too. It's 12, and they're waiting on the extra point to 13-6 Giants. LMP2, John Ferrano has a 33-point lead over Dwight Merriman and Ryan Dial. Then for drivers, but then the Tower Motorsport 8 that Ferrano drives trails a 51 PR on Matheson team by 19. So that'll be interesting to look at. In that series, the 74 and the 74 Riley Motorsports car and the 54 Core Autosport car are battling again this year. But the difference is the 54 is in the lead by a lot over the 74 Gar Robinson, who won the title last year, is well behind John Bennett and Colin Braun. And so that'll be probably the 54 winning another title. They've been successful in different categories in the series. GTD, top 4 teams, 140 points separated. Roman DeAngelis separated the top 4. Roman DeAngelis and the number 27 Aston leads Stephen McAleer and the number 32 Mercedes by 45. Ryan Hardwick, Jan Halen, Wright Motorsports, Porsche, 57 points. And then Philip Ellis, Russell Ward, 57. Winroad, Mercedes, 140 points back. So that'll be hard to, even with the points in between at different time points during the race. And then there's the Endurance Cup Championship. So that'll go down to the wire. Something to see. So there will be 7 cars in the DPI category. The 01 will have Renger van de Zande, Sebastian Bourdais, and then Earl Bamba, and Alex Lynn in the 02. The 5 car, JDC Miller. Last race for them as a Cadillac team. There'll be a Porsche customer team starting next year. Tristan Vautier, Richard Westbrook, Loic Duval. The points leading Conor Minolta Acura with Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, and Brendan Hartley, the Toyota factory driver, will be their 3rd driver in this race. 31 car, Olivier Pla will move in. They made a change, I think, for next year. Pippo Durrani will be joined by Alexander Sims next year at the Wheel and Engineering Cadillac team. There will be the 2nd factory car in the GTP category. Mike Conway, another Toyota driver, will be the 3rd driver. Mike Rockenfeller, somebody I mentioned multiple times so far in this show. Kamui Kobayashi, Toyota driver. And Jimmie Johnson will make up the 48 Ally Cadillac. And then the car in the championship, Oliver Jarvis, Tom Blomqvist, and Elio Castro-Neves, Meyer Shank Racing, AutoNation, Acura. So we'll see how that goes with that team. There are 7 cars in LMP2. Ferrano, Louis Delatraz, Rui Andrade, Tower number 8. Stephen Thomas, Josh Pearson, Tristan Nunez, PR1 Matheson, number 11. Dwight Merriman, Ryan Dial, Christian Rasmussen, Nhra Motorsports, number 18. That's the car that people have to look at in regards to the drivers. Dennis Anderson, Fjordbach, Fabio Scheer, high class 20 car. Fritz Van Erd, Guido van der Garde, and Dylan Murray in the 29 racing team, Nederland, Orica. And then the 52, Ben Keating, Mikkel Jensen, Scott Huffaker, Pier 1 Matheson wins car. That car is the one that is playing for the teams. My favorite would be the Dragon Speed car because it's Juan Pablo Montoya, his son Sebastian, and Hemrick Hedman, the number 81. Trying to see here in regards to, I mentioned about LMP3, they're good for bringing out a lot of cautions, so that'll be something to look at. There's 11 cars, so that'll be one that when it comes to cautions and also traffic, you have, look through here, 3 of the Sean Creek Motorsports, the Andretti Autosport, Jared Andretti, Gabby Chavez, and John Bennett, Colin Braun, George Kurtz, Core Autosport team. And you have, and then Gar Robinson, Felipe Fraga, Evan Burlow, Riley Motorsport team. In GTD Pro, there's 7 entries. The Corvette, number 3 of Antonio Garcia, Jordan Taylor, Nicky Katzberg. The 9, as I mentioned, they'll be the champion when they start the race. Campbell, Jaminet Nazar, Jack Hawksworth, Ben Barnico, Kyle Kirkwood in the Vassar Sullivan Lexus, Ross Gunn, Alex Riberas, Tom Gamble, Harder Racing, Aston, Connor D. Filippi, John Edwards, Jesse Krohn, and the BMW M Team RLL entry. Connor D. Filippi will be a part of their GTP program. Daniel Serra, David Rigon, James Collado, Rizzi Competizione Ferrari, and then the WeatherTech Racing Mercedes with Maxi Book and Maxi Goetz, and then Mikhail Grenier will race. Why am I forgetting his name? The guy that why is it the heck? Trying to go on GT. Go over here and move through entry list. Trying to go through that to go through the points and then see full standings. I just want to go and figure out GT Pro, the Cooper McNeil. That's who Cooper McNeil, the guy who his dad owns WeatherTech and whatever. He's not going to race this weekend. 16 cars in the GTD category, so the deepest class. Brian Sellers, Madison Snow, Eric Johansson, Paul Miller Racing BMW, Frankie Montecalvo, Aaron Teelitz, Richard Highstand in the Vassar Sullivan Lexus, number 12, Ryan Hardwick, Zachary Robichon, Jan Halen, Wright Motorsports, Porsche, they're in the points battle. AF Corsa, Ferrari, Tony Vielander, Luis Perez Companc, Simon Mann, Roman DeAngelis, Maxime Martini, and James Harder Racing. That's going to be one to look at for the points. Mike Skeen, Stephen McAleer, Dirk Muller, Mike Skeen testing positive for the vid, knocked him out of the points chase earlier this year. Robert McGinnis, Corey Lewis, Jeff Westphal, Carbon, Lamborghini. You have Jaden Conwright, Marco Holzer, Don Yout, NTE, SSR Lamborghini, John Potter, Andy Lally, Spencer Pumpelly, the Magnus Racing Aston Martin, the Satellar Racing Ferrari, which was basically a moving chicane earlier this year at the Rolex, Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Marvin Dienst, Windward Racing Mercedes. I think they named drivers for that Crucial Motorsports McLaren, at least one, but they don't have it listed here. Kiffin Simpson, Tel Bechtolsheimer, Mario Farnbacher, Gradient Racing Acura, and Dallas Scores. So now I have a real game. Brendan Uribe, Jordan Pepper, Seb Prio, in the Inception Racing McLaren. The Turner Motorsports BMW, Robbie Foley, Bill Oberlin, Mike Dinan, and then Rob Furiel, Catherine Legg, Nick Boulier, Team Hardpoint, Porsche make up your 48-car grid at Petite Lamont. Our Rally New Zealand coming up this weekend. As I mentioned, Cali Rovampera is the championship leader going into this weekend's race on the strength of 5 wins, but he's had a rough go of it last couple of races. He's 53 points ahead of Otanek, former world champion. Thierry Neuville's third, Efren Evans fourth, Katsuda is fifth, so 3 Toyotas, 2 Hyundais. The best Ford is Craig Breen in sixth. Sebastian Loeb has only ran, 4 rounds this year. He won, of course, Rally Monte Carlo, and then he's retired from 2 out of the other 3 races. Ogier finished second to Loeb at Monte Carlo, and then finished fourth, I think, at, not sure which rally that was, looked like Kenya. And then otherwise, in 3 races he's run this year. So, something to see. We'll see if Rovampera, there's only 3 rounds to go. So if he can have over a 55-point lead or thereabouts, because they have the bonus points at the end of the stage. So I think it's if he can have a 55-point lead at the end of this race, he'll be the world champion. Something we'll look at next week to see if that actually happens. The W Series is not raced for a while. They were running during the European rounds. They are now back this coming weekend with Jamie Chadwick up by 32, 75-point lead over Alice Powell and Betske Visser. Abby Pulling is fourth. That's really those three drivers behind Chadwick. That's really the battle for second. That's the interest. Balin Garcia, Nhra Marti, Emma Kimmelainen, they're racing for fifth. I think if you finish in the top 12 of the series, you are allowed to continue the next year. So that's something to look at. There is 12th is Bruna Tomaselli. She's a point ahead of Abby Eaton. Chloe Chambers right now is 16th with only 1 point, so she'll need some more points here if she wants to advance and continue. But she had a Formula 3 test, so maybe there's an opportunity for her there. This will be the first of 3 races here in a span of a month to end their season. They'll run at Singapore. They haven't run since running in France and Hungary back-to-back. Then they'll run the U.S. Grand Prix weekend at Austin and Mexico City to end their 2022 season. We'll see if Jamie Chadwick can continue her dominance, essentially the way that the points are right now. I mean, she will become a 3-time champion of the series, essentially by running the next few races. Josh, I'll open up the floor to you so you can wax poetic more about your Jacksonville Jaguars as I take a minute for myself here. The fact is they did a great job destroying the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert has had a rough start to the year in regards to injury, broken ribs and all. Offensive line's beaten up. He lost his left tackle during the game on Sunday. You have he lost a corner, or they lost a wide receiver, one of them things, and he's busted up. Austin Eckler's had a slow start to the year. He's kind of banged up. So it's not really looking great for a team that was on the brink of the playoffs last year. For Jacksonville to come from being only a 2 or 3 win team or whatever last year to now be a contender. It usually happens that way. Teams come from last to first. It's part of what the NFL does. It's where the parity comes in. Trevor Lawrence is playing at that level, that elite level that so many people expected from him last year. But now he has the right coach, and they have players in place. Him and why am I forgetting his name now? Him and Christian Kirk have built a great chemistry together. And James Robinson, coming off of injury, is right back to what he was doing last year. Those 3 guys are the nucleus for what could be a long-term success. It kind of harkens back to the days of, Natron Means and Keenan McCardell and Jimmy Smith with Mark Brunell, or you can go back to when Fred Taylor was around, and I forget who the wide receivers were around those days, and you had Byron Leftwich and David Garrard and stuff. So I'll give you the floor here for a few moments to talk about your team and how good they look so far after 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, talked about it earlier in the show, but this Jacksonville Jaguars team going out winning 38-10 over the Los Angeles Chargers. They just flat out demolished them, like I said, and it's been interesting to watch this play out. First half they had them, defensive struggle kind of in the first half. Early turnovers by Justin Herbert, interception off a play action pass to the running back. Devin Lloyd picked it up and returned it inside the 10. Had a chance to go up and get a touchdown there, and they should have handed it off to Robinson, but then they passed. They tried to do a reverse to Zay Jones, and then they passed 2 times and then settled for the field goal. So that was my only complaint about the game, is like maximizing the points, especially off of a big play in the red zone, or to start out in the red zone. So that's fine though. They still won the game. So 38-10 versus 45-10. Not going to complain. But or 42-10, whatever. Yeah, this whole thing was very just good to see for the Jaguars. After years of struggle, and then now we're seeing this, and they're legitimately a contender for the AFC, and I think definitely a contender to win the AFC divisional title for the AFC South. So looking forward to seeing how this year plays out. You mentioned Christian Kirk. Zay Jones also is somebody that's really come out the last couple of weeks. People were saying in training camp, Zay Jones had the best chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, and he's shown what he can do so far. So expect a lot out of Zay Jones this year as a member of the Jaguars. James Robinson coming back from Achilles injury. In that was a scary injury back in 2021, but now coming back here 9 months later, and he's out getting 50-yard touchdowns, and 30-yard, 40-yard touchdowns previous weeks. So he's back, and what a play, 4th and 1, 50-yard line, and they went for it, and James Robinson goes out and gets a score. Somehow after Achilles surgery, he actually got faster because last year James Robinson and the previous year, like he knows his strength is being able to find the hole and get the most yards efficiently, but he doesn't have like that extra gear to really take off and get past the secondary. But in this game, he showed that speed on that 50-yard run. So when he's able to take off, maybe somehow got faster there after tearing his Achilles and get it repaired and everything. So really happy he's back and looking like one of the top running backs in the AFC and possibly in the NFL. So really happy about that. Defensively, Devin Lloyd coming out, showing up once again. DeJuan Smoot showing up, forcing a fumble on Justin Herbert, and then Herbert recovered by Foye Oluokun, who I have in fantasy. Got that. What else? Defensively, good job in the secondary, batting passes from Herbert, good coverage all around for the most part. Herbert, was able to still look elite at times during the game, but overall there was just too much for the Jacksonville Jaguars, for the LA Chargers to overcome. So great game all around, great game to be a part of. Just glad to see it. The Chargers had a decision: should they have played Justin Herbert in the fourth quarter when the game was already out of hand, and probably not a good idea, especially with QB injured. They could have put in the backup in Chase Daniel, but they decided not to do that. And was scrolling through Twitter last night, seeing some rumors floating around that maybe the Chargers coaching staff has already lost their locker room, which would be interesting to see after all the hype of Brandon Staley last year and their coaching. How he was somehow like the wonder kid of the NFL, or wonderkind, whatever. Looking not so great after 3 weeks. So we'll see how they respond next week when they play whoever they play. So all in all, Jacksonville Jaguars legitimately contender for the AFC South, and probably going to be one of the teams to beat in the conference. So looking forward, I really hope we have a home playoff game this year, which I will do what I can to attend, just as I did the last time we had a home playoff game, and hopefully we go from there. Because looking at the schedule, next week against the Philadelphia Eagles, if they beat them, then they're absolutely legitimate, and they should. Honestly, if I were NBC, they should be flexed on a Sunday Night Football over the Chiefs and Tom Brady and the Bucks. Like, I think that's a better watch than Tom Brady, 45-year-old. Should have stayed retired, Tom Brady and the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think that's a better game.
Yeah, playing at Miami more than likely, because they're not going to be able to play at their own stadium.
We'll see. We'll see how it happens. It's a week from now and everything, but we'll see. But got that, and if the Jags do beat which I'm confident that they will beat the Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. They're absolutely a legitimate team. After that, they face the Houston Texans at home. Pulling up their schedule here in a second. They face the Houston Texans at home October 9, and then they go to they go Jaguars. I think they have an away game after that. The Jacksonville Jaguars schedule for the year, full schedule. Then they play the Colts in Indianapolis on October 16. I think that's a W. New York Giants, probably a W. Denver Broncos, they're trash. Russell Wilson is washed now. Stole $245 million or whatever, with that contract and how he's playing this year. That looks like stolen money. They can beat them. The Raiders look beatable, and so then they face the Chiefs. So if they, I guess reasonably speaking, Kansas City Chiefs Week 10 Sunday 11-13, that should be a game that's flexed onto Sunday Night Football. If as long as the Jaguars continue to have the success that they have now and have a winning record, that's a game to watch and would be their first time on Sunday Night Football since 2008 against the Steelers during that year. So we'll see, but all in all, it's looking like it's going to be a great year in Jacksonville, Florida, and for this Jaguars team.
Yeah, it's good to see that. I mean, you have the players you've been drafting. I guess the reclamation project for Balky finally figured out how to do it, but he also has a coach that he gets along with.
It's the Balky and Doug Peterson masterclass.
Yeah, I think it's also proof that Doug Peterson should have never been fired by Philadelphia. He was right. They were not ready to put in Jalen Hurts, but he wasn't willing to go and fully go all in with it at that point. You can see it the way that he played last year at times. He wasn't ready. And in the playoff game, it wasn't good. But this year, he's taken that step forward. They just found a yes person in Nick Sirianni, who Ty Schmidt from the Pat McAfee show does a great impression of. On the flip side, the Niners lost 11-10. They only gave up, 6 points or whatever. They gave up one touchdown in the end, but Jimmy Garoppolo turned the ball over, gave up a field goal. He pulled an Orlovsky and ran out at the edge of the end zone. The play calling at times was mediocre as per usual. Kyle Shanahan, they were 1 for 10 on third downs. It was not very worthwhile, this game. Russell Wilson did not play well. He literally only had one good drive, and that was essentially the drive that decided the game. But otherwise, the Denver Broncos are a very hapless team. Nathaniel Hackett is not that good of a coach. They have a good defense, I will give them that, but that's a lot to do with Vic Fangio and their last regime and going and drafting a lot of talent that they have there. They've picked up some guys. A lot of 49er guys are there now. Same as Miami, ironically enough. And the Miami is doing so great. So Jimmy's performance yesterday was inexplicable. But to be fair, that's what Jimmie is. And it's for all the idiots and pundits that shit on Trey Lance. That's why Trey Lance was drafted 3 overall. They gave up 3 ones. Because the potential with him and the ability to stretch a defense, the ability to scare him with the legs when you're not running him right up the middle into the line, running him bootlegs kind of the way that they run Russell Wilson, being able to kind of freelance a little bit, no pun intended. That's why they wanted him there, but Kyle Shanahan doesn't know how to handle that, obviously. He was trying to kill him the way they killed RG3 in Washington. So we'll see what happens next week during Monday Night Football. They have to come out and play well against the LA Rams. Over time, they've had the number of the Rams. But, of course, in that big spot last year in LA, they blew that game against the LA Rams in the NFC Championship game when they had a chance to advance to the Super Bowl. So we'll see what Jimmie has to offer. Trent Williams is out 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. So I think time is starting to catch up with the great legend, best offensive lineman there is in the game, highest ranked offensive lineman ever in the NFL top 100. Unfortunate incident because of a terrible play by Jimmie. Now he's hurt, so this offensive line, the depth of this offensive line is going to be tested. The running game is there with Jeff Wilson. Debo hasn't really had as much success out of the backfield, but he did get a touch there. He was able to score or whatever. And Brandon Ayuk is good, but you need better play from the quarterback position. He missed multiple balls to him, and he missed at least one to Debo and one to Brandon Ayuk. He threw in a triple coverage, trying to throw to Debo late in the game for no reason, and that essentially put the game away. So, I mean, dude's been in the league for fucking 10 years, and he throws at least 3 hospital balls a game trying to kill his receivers. So, I don't know what to do. I went a few weeks ago, I was really happy and I was really positive, but 1 and 2 feels a lot worse than 1 and 2 after that performance. But I guess we'll see what happens on Monday night. A lot of injuries going on here for the 49ers. That's CeeDee Lamb. Oh boy. CeeDee Lamb to the 1 yard line. So this is getting to be really spicy. 9:04 to go in the 4th. CeeDee Lamb gets let go free for whatever reason, and he almost runs into the end zone there in the process. So, pretty good job by him. So that is that. I was gonna talk about my fantasy football team right now. I'm leading. As long as I don't give a ball to oh man, I think they're gonna say he was out of bounds because he got pushed out. But CeeDee Lamb had caught, or no, did they call it a touchdown? Yeah, they did. He literally caught that ball with one hand. CeeDee Lamb just caught the ball with one hand. And Joe just won the week, probably. I made a trade with Steven. He's a new player in this league, a friend of Vic's. One-handed catch. 1, 2. Yep, he had a toe drag swag. The aforementioned Christian Kirk is heading Steven's way along with Austin Eckler. I'm getting Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals and rookie sensation Chris Olave, who had 9 for 147 on 13 targets this week. Last week he had 5 for 80 on 13 targets. So essentially he's the favorite target of Jameis Winston. So we'll see what happens with that trade. As it goes through. Of course, Cincinnati plays this week on Thursday night against the Miami Dolphins, who are now 3-0 after beating Buffalo Bills. Something to see there. Interesting start to the year. Bills lose, Kansas City loses. Some of the NFC teams struggling. The NFC West does not look great. The NFC East looks a little bit more competitive. The NFC North is kind of like a dumpster fire. It's kind of middle of the road. And the NFC South's a joke. So we'll see all that. I mean, it's only 3 weeks in to the season. We can't really make a full determination by any stretch on who's going to be where. But that something we'll keep up with every week here on the GSP during the season. Let's get into Formula One, Josh. Got the Singapore Grand Prix this coming weekend. We have just under 2 hours right now, so that's pretty good. Singapore Grand Prix, Max Verstappen, for all intents and purposes, is gonna win the world championship. There's not really any doubt of that at this point, but I'll let you start first in regards to the picks. I'm curious to look at standings or all time at Singapore. It's first time in a few years they've raced there. It's first time since 2019. Vettel was the last winner there at Singapore, so that's something to look at. The best driver there is Vettel, the soon-to-be retired Sebastian Vettel. Second best driver in average, Charles Leclerc. He's only ran there twice. Alonso, Albon, and Norris have both ran there once. Lewis Hamilton has 12 starts there, same as Sebastian Vettel. Has 9 top 5s and all 9 top 5s are all top 10, same as Vettel has 11 top 5s. 5 wins for Vettel at this track. Lewis Hamilton has 4. Alonso has 2. So 11 in regards to winners all time. Trying to see, the only one that has one that isn't still active is Nico Rosberg. So what is it right now? The Max Verstappen heads into this race. He has a 7.6 average. So that's amongst current active drivers. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. 5 races there, 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s. But I mean, I assume we're both making the same winner pick.
Yeah,
Josh,
I think Max Verstappen probably. And I mean, there's a little bit of clinching here that could happen for Verstappen. Sky Sports, discussing, possibility of Verstappen winning the championship here. If he wins the race fastest lap, Leclerc finishes 8th or lower, and Perez finishes 4th or lower, then he wins the championship. And if he wins the race without a fastest lap, Leclerc has to finish 9th or lower, and Perez finishes 4th or lower without a fastest lap, or 5th with the fastest lap. And the driver's title has only been won only once or twice before, with 5 races remaining. So it is an early look at what could happen if Verstappen decides to, or if he's able to clinch the title. Not sure how likely that could happen. But it's certainly a possibility. With Perez may be able to, maybe they give an order to Perez to, only race for 4th or lower. And with Ferrari, it's a given at this point that they're going to screw up the race strategy, or something's going to happen to Ferrari. So it's actually not all could happen. So not all out of the realm of possibilities that this could happen, but is it likely? I don't know. So we'll see. But as far as the podium, it's been a few years, so there's a lot of, don't know what's going to happen. You're kind of going off of things that have happened this year. But I will actually pick Leclerc to finish 3rd on the podium. And then, based on what we've been seeing in F1, it's tough, but I'm gonna go with George Russell on the podium this weekend, and so Leclerc and George Russell finish on the podium behind Max Verstappen. Verstappen have to wait another week to win, or win the title potentially in Japan, which may be a little bit more likely. But this will be 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be 6 wins in a row if Verstappen is able to get the win in here in Singapore. So we haven't even made it to the United States yet, so that's in a couple of weeks from now. But Grand Prix of the United States, but which maybe that's the place where Verstappen ends up clinching the title. But I think this weekend, of course, hard not to go against the guy that's won 5 races in a row here. But otherwise, we're just trying to pick whoever else can be the best besides Verstappen. So we'll see what Mercedes, if they can improve upon their last race where Russell finished on the podium there, and Verstappen, or not Verstappen, but Lewis Hamilton finished in 5th. So we'll see what Mercedes can do, and if Ferrari cannot screw up the strategy for once this weekend. So we'll see. But yeah, it should be an interesting race. We haven't been there in a couple of years to Singapore. It's been almost 3 years now. So be interesting to see how it all plays out. After a long time and long absence, and how drivers have to get used to being on the circuit again, and all those intricacies that go into the race weekend. Yeah,
that's something we'll see. What is your order? So did you say Leclerc for 3rd or Leclerc for 2nd?
I initially said Leclerc 3rd, but I'm going to change that and say second. And
There's second.
George Russell in third.
third.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit more likely.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And worth. I mean, I'll go and echo the win for Phil. Verstappen to win. I will say Lewis Hamilton finishes second, and Carlos Sainz finishes third. Now, Checo Perez in whatever hypothetical I have over here. Checo Perez finishes outside of the top 5, but Charles Leclerc finishes inside of the top 8, which means the World Championship would still continue to next week at Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. But for all intents and purposes, Max Verstappen would be champion-elect for the Formula One World Championship. I know everyone remembers when Nigel Mansell won the championship at Hungary in August of that year, and they were still racing for, I think, another couple of months after that. And that was only a 16-round calendar. I think it was 5 races to go still after that. I'm trying to remember who the other one was, if it was either Schumacher or Hamilton, who locked it up that early. But I can't remember off the top of my head. Dallas just kicked another field goal. They're up 10 points in the fourth, for those people that are interested in that. I was just checking out the picks here, since it was a picks channel. I was making corrections, and I had picked Tyler Reddick as a wild card. So that's so I guess theoretically I sort of pseudo picked the winner there. I mean, I did pick YRB, but I did have Reddick as a wild card. And honestly, Josh, you had MTJ as a wild card, and he was leading when he wrecked.
Yeah.
So was William Clyde Elliott. I think he was leading when he wrecked. So I think we all.
I picked to win and MTJ for. Okay, so yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. So I will say that this week's picks, starting with the Truck Series, are going to be a little more wonky. Now, to just give a preface to the Tate Fogelman algorithm, the reason it's named after Tate Fogelman is because the first ever algorithm pick that we did was for a Talladega truck race.
Tate Fogelman won. Yeah, and
you picked Tate Fogelman from the algorithm, or the algorithm pick, whatever way you want to put it. Tate Fogelman wins, wrecking across the line. And from then on, we've called it the algorithm, but at Daytona earlier this summer, or last month, I said we need to name it after him. Give its own name, probably figure out a way to get Tate Fogelman on the air here on the GSP. But something we'll work on, maybe hopefully for the end of the year or something like that. But let's get into the Truck Series. 41 drivers for 36 spots, so qualifying actually will be somewhat interesting. Chevy Silverado 250, it'll be a double header. It'll be a really busy Saturday at Talladega. If the weather holds, if weather is all good, then there's going to be a lot of action for all the inbreds that go to that deal. Ty Majeski won, of course, at Bristol a couple weeks ago, locked himself into the Final Four. Chandler Smith is 24 points above the cutoff. Zane Smith, 21 points above the cutoff. Stuart Friesen, 9 points above over John Hunter Nemechek. Christian Eckes, minus 13. Grant Enfinger, minus 15. Ben Rhodes, minus 18. Now, Ben Rhodes, of course, has won at Daytona. Grant Enfinger has won I think he's won at Daytona and Talladega in a truck. Definitely Talladega in a truck and Daytona in an ARCA car. Christian Eckes has good super speedway experience. John Hunter Nemechek, checkered history on super speedways, but he's driving for Kyle Busch, at least for the next, 3 races. So for me, who do I go and pick? I'm trying to look at the entry list here for the truck race. Who do I pick as a winner? I am going to choose as a winner for this race. I am going to pick... Oh, maggot moron. Tim Vines is in this race. Oh, boy. Or at least trying to. I'm going to pick Parker Kligerman to win this race at Talladega. He's going to be running double duty. They did win at Mid-Ohio earlier this year, the Henderson Motorsports outfit. My wild card pick for this race... Wild card really should be wild. I probably should have... I should have probably picked him, but I didn't. My wild card pick, Jennifer Ho. Wow, Jennifer Ho Cobb's actually going to try to qualify for this race. Good luck to her. I think there's vibes with Young's Motorsports since Spencer Boyd won a couple years ago here, and then Tate Fogelman won in the 12 truck. Of course, Spencer Boyd will be in the 12 truck this weekend. Parker Retzlaff, the guy who looks like Paperboy, but is a great iRacer. He's been driving for the Siegs this year in the Xfinity Series. He's going to be driving the 20 truck. I'm not going to go that far out on a limb, though I will go and say Young's Motorsports truck, Kaz Gralla, former winner at Daytona, driving for GMS. He will keep the Young's Motorsports vibe alive at Talladega with a victory. Much needed, trying to get himself a ride next year. A lot of moving parts in the truck series for sure, and Xfinity for that matter, amongst teams outside of probably the big teams. But I think outside of Junior Motorsports, I think every team is kind of looking to set everything up there. So yeah, I'm going to pick Parker Kligerman as my winner and Kaz Gralla as my dark horse for the trucks. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, so I think for me, I'm finishing typing up your thing, but
yeah,
for me, this race is such a crapshoot, especially in trucks. But any of these guys to be up front. I'm just gonna go it is almost wild card here or algorithm pick, but I gotta actually make the pick here. But I'm gonna go with. Oh man, this is tough. Actually tough. I'm gonna go with Ryan Preece to win. Why not? Let's go way out there.
That's exactly what you see. It's funny how it's why we work together. I went through. There was two people I went through as I scrolled back up through the list, and I'm like, I probably should have picked him or I should have picked him. And one of the people was Ryan Preece because he's in a front row truck, and they have Stuart Haas support and a whole bit. So, and he has super speedway experience. He's done well in Cup Series and super speedways. So, algorithm pick we're waiting to see what the algorithm says for this race. It's been good.
And it's been good, yeah. So, let me run the algorithm really quick. And for the truck race, the algorithm says that the that would be huge too, but the number 61 of Chase Purdy will win this weekend.
All right.
Yeah, that's not bad actually. Hattori Racing Enterprises with Toyota sponsorship from Old Mississippi, or Old Miss University, so might actually be legit.
And then oh my God, what was that by Daniel Jones? Jesus Christ, that's intentional grounding too. He got sacked and then he decided to throw it. That's grounding.
What's the score?
Is it
still 20?
It's still 23-13 with 3:43 to go. They're gonna go and call in grounding there. He's gonna have lost a down. The Purdy is not really done much of anything this year. Neither is his teammate Tyler Ankrum, but it would be something for Purdy. He's done well on super speedways in the ARCA series.
So it's not far out there.
It's not far out there. Corey Heim will be in the 51 for Cowbush Motorsports. That's one to look at. Timmy Hill running for his own team. You have, I'm trying to scroll through Clay Greenfield, who's had great success on super speedways over time. I mentioned Ben Rhodes, of course, former winner at Daytona. Majeski's free rolling, so who knows what he could do. Zade Smith won at Daytona earlier this year, and he's somebody that he's got a nice deal for next year, running all 3 series. Johnny Sauter running with Junior Joyner as his crew chief, going to Talladega as a former winner there. He's good at the super speedways when he chooses to be, when he's not rage quitting. Just a few people look at Jordan Anderson, almost won at Daytona a couple years ago, along with Corey Roper. It is a wild card race for sure. This race, they'll have a few weeks before they have their cutoff. Their next race would be the race at Martinsville. They have Talladega, and they don't run at Martinsville. Oh, so their cutoff race is Homestead. I didn't know that. Okay. I thought they were running Martinsville. Okay, my fault. So they'll run at Homestead in a few weeks' time, and then they'll have a couple weeks before their season finale. So Homestead, which will be in 3 weeks. Yeah. 3 weeks after Talladega, they'll race at Homestead on Saturday afternoon, the Baptist Health 200. So that'll be the cutoff race and the round of 8 for them. They'll take the week off for Martinsville, and then they'll show up at Phoenix for the finale. Xfinity Series at Talladega last year, Sparks 300. Last year saw Brandon Brown and the birth of a certain saying that a segment of our population has latched onto. Now his career is basically over, so credit to all those geniuses on that. I mean, I guess he doubled down on it, so he's kind of guilty of it in his own right. 41 cars for 38 spots. It looks like Mike Harmon is going to run his own 47 car. The fact he can fit in the car is a miracle in its own right. So that's one thing. You got Timmy Hill driving the 13, trying to make it in on time. Jeffrey Earnhardt driving for Emerling Gase in a Ford. Jeremy Clemens mentioned, of course, he won at Daytona. Needs to win here to give himself any chance. Parker Kligerman will be in the 48 Big Machine Chevy, so running that double duty as I mentioned. Who else was I? Yeah, Joe Nemechek, a rare appearance in the Xfinity Series these days, running for Sam Hunt, the 24. So they have no points. I'm not sure how the Champions Provisionals are working. He might have a chance to make the show as a past champion provisional. So Josh, I'm going to go to you first because then you will leave the drama. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of drama with the Cup Series, but we'll go to you first for Xfinity on your pick to win and your the Tate Fogelman algorithm choice for the Sparks 300 here at Talladega.
Yeah, so I think for me, stay with the playoff contenders, and I talked about him earlier here in the show and the points because he needs to win. But I'm going to pick Daniel Hemrick to win this weekend here in Talladega. Colleague racing, we talked about it many times here on the show, but Colleague racing has done a phenomenal job working together on the super speedways, and he's been a driver to watch. As long as, or they've been a team to watch, as long as they stay in formation and, they're able to execute the runs and blocks and all that stuff. But I imagine that, AJ Allmendinger is in a better points position than Hemrick, and you got Landon Castle, who's not in the playoffs, but is good at super speedway racing. So look at these guys to team up together, try to get Daniel Hemrick into the next round. Secure his spot. And it's not a dire situation. He's only like 1 point out, but still, I still see those guys like they always do team up to win. And, I think Hemrick, hasn't won all year. So, I think this would be a good opportunity for him to win. this weekend. But yeah, that's who I'm thinking, and it's going to be battle between those cars at the end of the race, I think, anyways. And hopefully Dan Hemrick can go out and actually pull out the victory here. Win his second career race in Xfinity series. So we'll see. And then as far as the algorithm goes, now the moment we've all been waiting for, it seems to be getting smarter because it picked Josh Berry in the number 8 car to win. So yeah, little surprise there. But Josh Berry going out winning Talladega. That's what the algorithm thinks.
Yeah, so I just typed that in there. Josh Berry would definitely appreciate that since he's not a road racer and he doesn't want to have to race in on points at the Roval, trying to be like his car owner and buddy, Dale Jr., trying to go and take the vibes of the 8 and Dale Jr. and go and ride it to victory lane. Would be a very popular victory for sure if Josh Berry could get yet another victory here. Daniel Hemrick won his first stage last week since the Daytona opener, where he won the first 2 stages from pole and then got wrecked. So in the end, Kaulig team doesn't have speed at a lot of these racetracks. Allmendinger is like at least a step or step and a half above his teammates. It might be leading towards him running full-time in Cup next year, which might in turn kind of start setting off a bunch of dominoes there. But in terms of my picks for the Xfinity Series race winner, I'm going to go. This is kind of tough. It's kind of tough, but I think it's kind of straightforward, but I don't know. I'm going to go and choose Trevor Bayne in the 18 for Joe Gibbs as my winner. We know his prowess on super speedways over time. He was close to winning here in the truck race for Nice a year ago or a couple years ago. His one Cup win, of course, was one of the great Daytona 500s ever. I mean, minus the fact that Tony Stewart had a chance to win it and Mark Martin didn't go with him and they didn't go anywhere. He was on the last restart there. But Trevor Bayne, he wants a win here. I think the way things are going in the Xfinity and the Truck Series, he might be able to find an opportunity full-time next year. Gibbs doesn't have any drivers as of now set for their Xfinity program. I mean, I think we could kind of venture to say that Sammy Smith and probably John Hunter Nemechek would be 2 of the drivers in their program. And then they would have a third car that would kind of be a star car with their Cup drivers. It would also allow Ty Gibbs to run a few races here and there. Probably open up an opportunity for Christopher Bell to run like 5 races as well. And then they can kind of dovetail that across with the rest of the people with money and stuff. So I'll pick Trevor Bayne. My wild card pick, it's kind of tough, really. I mean, if there's like a ton of destruction, it's one pick, but then I'm going to go with Anthony Alfredo, our Motorsport. So Fast Pasta. I'll go with he's a guy that at times this year has shown pace. He's been a capable driver. I think that team is not as bad as they looked with other drivers being around, but Alfredo has done all right. And if our Motorsports focused their energies on less cars and focused on trying to get more productivity out of less cars, they'd be good. And Anthony Alfredo with Pat Tryson's a great combination. Tryson's won plenty of races, so that's my wild card pick. Cup Series at Talladega, Yella Wood 500. Last year, for certain segments of society, you may want to go and plug your ears. I'm sure if you listen to this show, you won't be offended anyways. Darrell Bubba Wallace won his first career Cup Series race in a rain-shortened affair, and he doubled down and proved that he was capable and worthy of being in the Cup Series with his win at Kansas Speedway a few weeks ago. Bubba Wallace, of course, is basically the best super speedway driver currently in the Cup Series in recent times. The Daytona elimination race, the Coke Zero 400 turned into a demolition derby, in large part because NASCAR didn't throw a caution for rain. So that's one thing to take into account. Ryan Blaney has been really good at Talladega over time. It seems like Penske is much better at Talladega than they are at Daytona, even though all their drivers, including Brad, have had their moments at prior to when he was still there, Brad Keselowski. They all have had good moments at Daytona. I'll pick Ryan Blaney again. I feel like both Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex, I think it would be really weird if neither of them win this year. I think this race is a perfect place for Ryan Blaney to win, lock himself into the next round, going into the Roval, which is a place he's won at as well, getting into the round of 8 where you have 2 1.5 mile racetracks, different type of 1.5 mile racetracks, and a short track. That'll be something to look at. But YRB, my main pick, my wild card's Brad Keselowski, because why not? Dude won a 125 or 150 earlier this year. He qualified on pole last week. He had a car to win at Bristol 2 weeks ago. Guy is one of the best super speedway racers we have currently, and he's great at Talladega. He's dominated at Talladega, won his first career race there. It would be kind of poetic if Brad Keselowski could kind of come full circle in a sense, win at Talladega for his first win as a car owner. That's an interception by Daniel Jones, and the Dallas Cowboys are going to win on Monday Night Football. So all the Dallas Cowboys fans are going to be throwing like nobody's business. Win 23-16. So I picked Ryan Blaney and former teammate of his, Brad Keselowski, as the wild card. What are you looking at, Josh, for your picks to win? And what does the algorithm spit out? Because last time we did a Cup race, it spit out Noah Gragson, and I almost threw up on my microphone. So we'll see. I'll prepare myself accordingly here.
No, yeah. So for me personally, we've started out this playoffs like almost like abnormally, with the first 3 races being won by non-playoff drivers, and then this last one being won by a playoff driver being eliminated. So it's been an interesting start to the playoffs here, it's been interesting, and I feel like we have to regress back to the mean, and a playoff driver has to win at some point, right? So I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin, coming off of recent drama with drivers, William Byron, everything. He's won this race before, controversial manner, going below the yellow line in 2020. But I feel like he comes out and wins this race here at Talladega this weekend. It's going to be an interesting race for sure, and there's going to be a lot of wild things happening, and a lot of craziness throughout the field. So we'll see what happens. But as far as the algorithm goes, it says that William Byron's going to win at Talladega. So the other party in the fracas that happened on Sunday with Denny Hamlin and William Byron, one of those guys may end up winning. So we'll see. This is probably the strongest algorithm pick we've had yet in the Cup Series, that is. So we'll see what happens. But I may actually, for the first time ever, actually take a bet on a NASCAR race, because I did recently open a Bovada account for NFL games and still have a little bit of cash in there. So maybe I might throw like a parlay or something like that on this race. We'll see. And or
you should throw the parlay like the guy that went and won $1 million betting on Cody Ware, Landon Castellan, and I forget who else, and he bet on and won $1 million. And then there was another guy that won nearly $800,000 with like a 3-way parlay for all the guys finishing in the top 10 back markers. And then, so, I mean, there's options. I liked betting on the super speedway races. I bet on Brendan Gaughan, Uncle Brenny outright. I didn't do any algorithms, but I did Brendan Gaughan outright a few years ago, and it was fun to watch the race. I was rooting for him. It made it more interesting because watching super speedway racing is atrocious. So something to add to the deal there. I mean, honestly, picks I don't think are too crazy. I think we'd be able to hit somewhere in the NASCAR realm.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty good. We all, I think, 3 Chevrolet picks and 1 Toyota in my end for Xfinity. You picked where you got 2 Toyotas, a Chevy, and a Ford. And trucks and Cup, I picked 2 Fords. You picked a Toyota and a Chevy, but 2 playoff drivers. So we have a fight here at the end of the game. Sterling Shepard was running down the field and had some sort of knee issue and got taken off on a cart. So that's not good for the Giants after losing their first game of the year. Something to see that. But we'll move forward as it stands. I've won by 15, just under 15 points over Manny. You won over Wilson by less than 5 points, but you got the dub, so that's what matters. The best matchup of the week, Joe, because of CD Lamb and that crazy catch. What the heck is going on? Yeah, because of CD Lamb gets the victory by just a little over 7 points on Luke. Jeff destroys Vic, the defending winner of this league. And then Professor J goes to 3-0. His Buffalo Bills lose yesterday, but he continues his momentum and goes to 3-0 on the season. Josh and I I'm 4th and Josh is 5th. So 4 teams at 2-1, 4 teams at 1-2, and Vic is at 0-3 going into next week, where I'll be playing Vic. So we'll get into that more next week and see what happens with that. Josh, let's hear what's going on in regards to iRacing and Sims in general, like F1 and the like, and what we should be looking at before we close the deal here.
Yeah, last week I haven't really been able to play much. I was, busy with other stuff throughout the week, so I haven't been able to hop on like I'd like to, but, there's always next time. So, this week, probably just going to be NASCAR, Talladega in all forms, truck, Xfinity, Cup in the 87 car. Just try to pad the stats here and try to get a win. I think I've been experimenting the last time when we went to Talladega or to Daytona in the Xfinity and Cup car. Did a little bit of experimenting and tried to lay in the back until the end and then make a run. I've tried that. That seemed to work. Tried to stay up there or get aggressive only when necessary. It seemed to work, so maybe I'll try that, or maybe just try to say at some point I'm just gonna say screw it and go try to push for the lead and stay up there. I think either strategy works as long as you can maintain. So, it's just dependent on other people, if they make a mistake or not, and trying to avoid the wreck and everything. So it's going to be a challenge. So, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Other series that I try to race, probably race the Mazdas again at some point. Race the Ford Mustang at some point. Maybe IndyCar. Now that the season's over, it doesn't really matter, but IndyCars, I guess the iRacing series, I think is doing Long Beach, so maybe I'll try that if I feel like it. Other things, so we'll see. think they recently announced the injury blanks for the Open Wheels 500. Not sure yet if I'm going to actually do it. Not because I don't want to, but just because I don't know what my schedule is going to look like in a couple months. So I'm not sure yet what my plans are going to be. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, maybe a little bit of F1 if I can get to it over this week, the weekend, or whatever, and everything. So we'll see if I can get around to sim racing this week, and everything. So as always, if I decide to stream, which Talladega is probably a good stream to have, so probably do that. As always, Twitch TV/usailor2. You can go in there, follow the streams, and see my racing on there. By the way, I intend on going to Orlando this weekend. Try to hang out with our friend Joe Passero, who we had on many times. He's in Florida right now, and currently made arrangements to go, try to watch the race together in Orlando. So on Sunday, so should be interesting. Get some, meet up with somebody and get some live takes as we watch the race. I forgot where we're gonna go to, but I think some restaurant or something near Disney. So should be interesting. So looking forward to that. Hopefully it'll still go as long as the hurricane goes through and everything. We're all good and roads are cleared up and everything. So it should be interesting, and looking forward to that. But yeah, as always, you can follow me on social media, JP Huffine on Twitter. Go in there and look at my stuff and see what I have to say. And been talking about the Jaguars recently, as clearly made that obvious. And yeah, been getting my hot takes on there. And when the Jaguars are good, watch out for us on Twitter. You guys are gonna not to say you guys, but in general, Jaguars Twitter. People don't want to mess with them on Twitter in general, and now that we're actually good, and they're gonna have to really respect us. So yeah, we'll see. But follow me on there and all my other takes and everything. Twitter.com/JP @JPHuffine. So go in there, and then of course see us on YouTube, Gripstrip Podcast YouTube. Go in there, hit subscribe button, and watch our videos, and see everything we got to say in video format. And you can go follow us on there and like, comment, and subscribe to our page. So you can go on there and watch us. And if you don't want to just listen, you want to see me repping the Jags, see Phil repping whoever he decides to rep, whether it's Keselowski or other racers, Chase Briscoe. So we'll see. But
football or hockey
all
or baseball stuff, or whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. So, and of course you can see our most shots and whoever else we have on the show as guests. So that's it for me tonight. So I'll let you do the rest of the close, Phil.
Absolutely. Thanks as always, brother, for your contribution and everything you do, especially on the YouTube side for our show, getting the show out there for the fans and the people that listen and want to go and see us that way. You can find me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can find Gripstrip Podcast on Twitter at Gripstrip Pod. You can find the Gripstrip Podcast basically anywhere you find podcasts: Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, Verbal are all the ones that we have there. In regards to where podcasts go, I think there probably is more, but something we'll go and look into as we go along. I mentioned my Twitter. I also go and do hits on the Grid Talk, Formula One Grid Talk podcast with George Housen and company. I'm going to upload an episode of with Formula One related with Tom Downey from Everything F1 and Carl King of the Monkey Seat Motorsport podcast, which was an uncensored Formula One podcast talking about Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull leading into this last part of the World Championship. So take a listen to that if you'd like, and like a little more color and flavor there in regards to coverage. And then we'll upload this episode here later in the week, and we will be back for episode 137 of the Gripstrip Podcast, going over all things Talladega, Grand Prix of Singapore, the Petite Lamont, MotoGP, Moto2 at Thailand, NHRA at St. Louis, Singapore W Series, Bathurst 1000 will be next weekend. So the great race, one of the greatest races in the world. World Superbikes will be at Portimao in Portugal. The season finale for British touring cars will be taking place next week at the Brands Hatch GP circuit. Talk about football and fantasy football, and probably talk about me. I'll probably kick in a little Yankee talk with Aaron Judge, probably hopefully be talking about the Niners in a positive way, and anything else going on in sports and bowling, etc., etc. We'll talk about fantasy. We'll talk about radio teams. We'll also talk about Formula One at the Japanese Grand Prix, where essentially after all the machinations we talked about, Max Verstappen will end up winning the championship at Suzuka, a place where there's been plenty of controversy and weird stuff that's happened over time. Cup and Xfinity will run the Charlotte Roval to end their respective rounds. In the case of both of them, will be the round of, Cup will be going to the round. Both of them will be going towards the round of 8 after the Charlotte Roval. And so with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading and liking and subscribing. Let us know what you think. Let us know what we can do to improve and what you want to hear or who you want to hear from on the Grip Strip Podcast. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thank you for listening to Grip Strip Podcast. Take care. God bless. Goodbye.